Welcome everybody to Odyssey's Career Day 2021. It's a very exciting day. We have about 1,600 students registered. We have so many amazing companies that are here to meet you. And right now we're going to get started with just a brief intro on what Odyssey is. And we're going to talk about informational interviews and maximizing a mentor. And like I mentioned, feel free to drop any questions in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that and we're going to get going. So what is Odyssey? It's where underrepresented students get connected with inspiring professionals, and that includes one-to-ones, but also big events like Career Day. I'm Brian. I launched Odyssey about a year ago after running a bunch of pilots. Basically, I was a first-generation college student, and I went through the process of trying to break into finance, and it was just miserable. But finally got very lucky after a lot of effort and got connected with a career mentor who had just a tremendous impact on my whole career trajectory. And I was always very thankful for that experience. And I wanted to help facilitate those type of connections for more people. So we built Odyssey to make it easy for busy professionals to get involved. A lot of mentorship programs have a ton of structure, a ton of time commitment. And it makes it really hard if you're busy to help out. But a lot of people do want to help out. So we want to unlock the time for all those people. So we make it flexible for the professional. And the theory is we get the best professionals. And we do. We have awesome professionals from tech, consulting, finance, media, across all industries, and it's all 30-minute Zoom chats. Click the book if you're not on already. I don't know why. It's all free, and yeah, people are just there to help you out, and you can have conversations from typical career chats to resume reviews to mock interviews to coding practice to mock casing if you're into consulting. So it's really a great resource. So we're going to talk about informational interviews. So office hours on Odyssey can take a lot of forms, but sometimes they do take the form of what some people call a coffee chat, some people call an informational interview. Some of the companies you're going to meet with today, you could have what would be considered an informational interview if you get to have a one-on-one, or even not, kind of a light form of an informational interview. And I wanted to discuss this because it's just such a terrible misnomer for what it is, because it's absolutely not an interview, and it can make you feel a lot more. It can feel a lot more daunting if you think of it as an interview, but it's just an informal discussion between a job seeker and an employed professional. And really, what it is, it's an opportunity for you to learn about a career, build your network, and get comfortable with those business relationships. If it's not an interview, then how does it actually help you land a job? Well, there's two really important things for landing your job. One is career knowledge. How can you pursue a career if you don't know much about it, right? Or even that it exists in some cases. And your network. Referrals represent only 7% of applications, but are a full 40% of hires. So that shows you just how important that network is. And especially if you were like me, I didn't grow up with much of a network. So it's really important when you do have the opportunity to connect with people and start building that network. And those new connections and career paths lead to relationships and advice, and yes, that will eventually lead to landing your dream job. And don't be concerned, don't be nervous. It's all about framing. If you pulled over on the street and asked somebody for directions, do you think they would feel like you're just stealing their time, like you're just using them? No, like they feel great if they can help you out, right? And it's the same thing with these conversations. If people are giving you their time, if they're willing to connect, then they want to help you out. So don't be nervous. Just understand that someone's trying to help you out, and be grateful and be there to learn from them and learn what you can and build those relationships. Discussion topics. This is important. Sometimes you don't want to be overly transactional. You don't want to be overly vague. So just saying, I want a job, it's not going to make anyone want to help you. You want to start off by building that relationship, getting to know each other, understanding what opportunities there could even be. So you want to make sure you're always friendly and just make sure it's relevant and provide some context for whatever professional you're meeting. So some questions I always recommend are, what's a typical day like? What do you love about your job? What do you hate about your job? How did you make it on this career path? Those are all questions that'll, if you have enough of these conversations, you'll really be able to start triangulating into, what path you should think about pursuing, what paths are really not for you. And all of these questions are really providing you information that you can't just Google. And this is really the most important career information, because you're not going to be able to go online and read an article and say, that's the role I want. You're going to have to meet people in a certain role, even at a certain company, because really culture and roles can vary so much from company to company. So here's your informational interview checklist. Prepare. You don't need to do a whole research report, but just have a basic level understanding, so the professional understands that you really cared about this meeting, and at least you put in some effort. Be present, on time, and ready. I can't stress enough how important on time is. It's First impressions are important, but as long as you show up on time, that is the best first impression you can make. And it's amazing how many people fumble that, and even our no shows sometimes. Be smart, with an emphasis on the MAR: mindful, appreciative, respectful. I'm sure all of you are, but it's just good to keep that in mind. And also, when you get feedback, just take that in stride. Remember, they're trying to help you, and not trying to, put you down. And follow up, very important. You can have 1,000 conversations, but if you never talk to the person again, you're not building a relationship. So if there's action items at the end of the call, that gives you a great opportunity to send an email a week later. Hey, you suggested connecting with XYZ. I did this. I applied for this. I sent this in. Anything you can do to show that you actually followed through, and by following up with the professional, is going to really help you build that one-time conversation to much more of a relationship. This is your chance to practice in a low-risk environment. My first, it was actually a first stage interview. I remember I was a sophomore in college. I got on the phone, and my roommate was there, and he'll tell you that he thought I literally couldn't speak. My whole throat closed up. I was so nervous that I couldn't articulate anything. But it was amazing, because after that, I decided this is something I need to work on. And I had more and more of these chats in a lower risk environment. And it's amazing how much more comfortable you can get. And just putting in those reps will make you more comfortable. And it's amazing, because the more comfortable you get, the more comfortable the professional will get. And you'll be able to build better relationships, if you're not completely nervous. So do these informational interviews, these coffee chats, have more conversations, so that way when you get to the point when it actually really matters, you'll be comfortable. So what about a mentoring relationship? Informational interviews are a perfect place to meet a mentor. And what you're going to want to do is just keep an eye out for when you really vibe with somebody, there is some organic component, or when they really feel vested in your outcome, and they give you some action items, you follow up. Really make a purposeful effort to stay connected, and those people can become your mentors. And really, if you ask almost anybody that's successful, they'll tell you that mentors had a huge impact on their life, and they're really important relationships. So how can you maximize that relationship? Mentoring is actually a feedback loop. Professionals, they have the career knowledge and network that we talked about that is so important for landing that role. But they also want something, right? They want to make an impact. And what they're giving you is they're giving you that career knowledge and network with the support and advice, but you have potential that can translate into them making an impact. So what you want to do is to demonstrate that impact they've made. And what am I talking about here? Impact can come in any size. It's just share it with the professional. It could be that conversation sparked a new interest. You decided what you don't want to pursue. You made this application. You did this interview. You connected with Bob. Even failing is a learning experience. And just the more you share with your mentor, even if it's a negative, they're going to feel vested, and they're going to feel like, oh, they failed. Okay, what can we do to help you? What can we do to push things forward? Tyler asked, how would you go about getting a sponsor? I think in a lot of cases, sponsorship can be very similar to what I'm talking about here. And it really is having those conversations, and seeing when somebody is vested in what you're going to be doing, how can they help you, and basically naturally a sponsorship can occur by having enough of those conversations and by building those relationships up. A lot of these cases, I'm talking about mentorship. Actually, these mentors can be sponsors for you, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight. You can't just show up, hey, can you sponsor me? It's about getting out there, building those relationships, and and it's like any relationship. It doesn't happen immediately, but you'll see over time that that support will grow and grow. But most importantly, relax and have fun. Um, these relationships can be nerve-wracking at first. These conversations can be very daunting, but this is such an amazing time in your life because you have so many career paths in front of you, and you get to choose, right? And really, this is a perfect time for you to explore, even if you're from a freshman to a senior to already graduated. There are so many people out there who are willing to connect and have conversations. And really, the best way to learn a job is to do a job. The second best way to learn a job is to do an internship or a project. But the third best way is to have conversations with people who are doing that job. And that third way, while isn't as good for learning as the first two, you can have more of those, right? Because it's not a whole commitment of an internship or a job. So I really encourage you to start building those relationships. You'll find sponsors like Tyler mentioned, and and it's really going to lead to just a much better career search. And then even after you land your job, this is the network, the village that's going to support you throughout that time. So I really encourage you to have those conversations.